decided we're going to do something not under the hood.
So one of the things that our Chieftain has got to be able to do is stop.
Yeah.
And we figured that a majority of the parts in it are probably rusted and would require replacement, especially if there's any rubber parts. And we want to check and see how bad the brake pads are. So these are drum brakes, right?
Yeah, these are your drum brakes, all four corners.
So that's not my favorite type of brakes to deal with, so
And
he's going to teach me how.
Plus, we also have to take the front tires off anyway because the tread is currently falling off of them. And when I say falling off, I mean completely peeling off and laying on the ground.
Okay, so granted, when we first got the car, we just wanted something that kept air in the tires long enough for us to keep them from being on the ground.
I just thought they were better tires than that.
Yeah.
They weren't.
So we're going to get started. We're going to raise the rear end up and take both tires off.
And plus, I'm going to leave this up on the rear jack stands for a while. Because if you watched our starting video, it was in neutral and trying to drive forward. So I'd prefer the drive tires no longer be touching the ground until we have the brakes working and somebody can sit in the cab. Just say it. I don't want this thing running over me.
So from what I understand, this car does not technically have a park.
You put this car in park by putting it in reverse, shutting the engine off, then shifting down one gear out of reverse, and that puts it into a park mode. So you had to have this car running to accomplish park, and it parks it with the engine. It locks it to the engine.
So when it sounds like an automatic transmission, it's not the same as our modern transmissions?
It pretty much is. It just doesn't have the park. It has a little pawl that locks the transmission shaft. Everything else works the same.
But in other words, I still have to learn how to drive it.
Yes, because reverse is at the bottom.
Okay.
And there's a low and a couple of different drives for different situations.
Okay, let's get started.
All right, let's see if we can get this jack under here. First order of business. Get the wire out of it.
Well, that's going to be a long ways under there.
I'm aware.
I didn't realize how big the trunk is.
It's at least a 4-body trunk.
I'm going to say 6. Okay, so for those of you who
It's only 5 foot that way.
might not understand the joke behind it, is theoretically, hypothetically, if you ever going to hide bodies in the trunk of your car, how many bodies can you hide in there?
Well, that's how mobsters shot for cars back in the day. That's why all the cars back in the 40s, had 6-body trunks. Just in case they had a bad day. Well, I hit the jack stands because that was faster than I meant for it to be. We are on the jack stands.
I'm glad this is taller than your average car. So aside from the nice wonderful ants here in Oklahoma, which makes working outside on the ground very difficult, especially people like me, because apparently bugs like me. This is what we were talking about, the gas tank. And I don't think this is an original gas tank because it feels like it's plastic.
Have you looked at the straps?
Well, and this is definitely not original straps.
This is all thread bent into a hole with, looks like Home Depot special hanging strap. Right over here though is what they've done to the gas tank. It has been knocked in. I think that's actually a liner around the metal tank is actually what that is, maybe.
Well, because there's actually a drain in the front of this gas tank.
Kind
of like an oil pan.
I don't think we need to drain it.
No, I don't think we need to drain it either. It's quite empty.
Yeah, I think so. It just fell out. Here is this is around the leaf springs that we were talking about.
I've never seen that on a car before.
I haven't either. It may be more common. I haven't worked on any of the 50s models very much. 60s and 70s I'm a little more familiar with, but maybe
Right.
40s and 50s it was like this.
So, one of the things I want to show you, if you can get onto this side of the gas tank, these actually had like spare tire carriers in the trunk. Now, yes, they had holes in them on purpose to drain, but this one's got a few more holes than intended. So
Oh, you'll get better fuel mileage. You lighten the car.
Lighten my load. So I'm going to be experimenting, learning how to weld, and probably the trunk is probably going to be the first place I learn how to replace some of the floor pans.
So you're saying you're doing the one that we're going to be covering in carpet?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're going to be replacing all of the carpet eventually, but maybe the part that's not going to be quite seen so much.
Yeah. It's going to take me a minute to teach you to weld sheet metal.
So it is definitely different. And I don't know if you can notice that these shocks back here, well, they look a little different too. Obviously, I got a lot of dirt daubers to clean up. Okay, well, wait a minute. Here's one thing here. Oh, that's a good thing or a
what?
Bad thing to hear that rub. But let's take some wheels off and see if we can get some drums and see how bad our brakes are.
Let's see how hard it is to get the drums off.
Let's see how hard it is to get the wheels off. Let's start from there.
I've had these wheels off.
Oh, okay.
It's when I filled it with the tires.
Well, I do have another vehicle that one wheel is frozen onto the drum, and I don't know how to get it off.
And it's a little bitty Volkswagen Bug,
yeah.
And we can't get the wheel pried off. But we got a brand new tire for it sitting in the trunk.
Yep.
So I put the tire on the spare. So if we can ever get it knocked off, we've got a perfectly good tire for it.
Little bitty muffler.
Yeah. For a great big looking engine.
But like I said,
but you don't need a lot of muffler for 128 horsepower.
So apparently that's something that was unique about the cars in this time was this X-frame. I don't know if you can see it from back here.
Not real well. I don't think the camera's picking it up. I'm trying to get low. We don't have this up very high, so it's a little hard to get you a view.
Okay.
But it's got an outside frame and an X-frame in it. And a really long muffler up there.
Well, it is a long ways to the front. So this is just, you don't know how long I wanted to have an old model car that's got the rounded fenders and just really, really cool.
This has everything old, that's for sure. All right, let's see if we can get some wheels off. The reverse thread on this.
So
I forgot about that. That would be called left-handed thread. She's trying to remember that.
So instead of the lefty-loosey, it's righty-loosey and lefty-tighty.
Righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. Yeah, these turn clockwise to come off. So
another one of our project vehicles, and it's different from the front and back tires are different too, aren't they?
Yeah, because it has Jeep hubs put on it on the front. There's a little rot hidden in there.
Well, that tire wasn't so bad.
No, the back tires are actually in decent shape.
This part right here is the tension wheel that we were trying to adjust, which moves the brake pads in and out a little bit.
When you look in a service manual, they'll call this the star adjust wheel, and it is seized just like I expected it would be.
So these right here are both your brake pads, and this is what they call a drum that the brake pads slide up against. It's got some grooving into it. Luckily, I have a friend of mine who used to have a shop here that maybe he can help us out in allowing us to smooth those out a little bit if need be.
And just a point, always pay attention to your front and back brake shoes. They are different. You see this one right here has this longer piece of metal up here at the top?
Uh-huh.
This needs to stay on the front.
Okay.
Because you can get these reversed. The pins are going to be in the same spot, but they won't work right. Because when they bind up in the drum and it expands and tightens, you'll get excessive wear if you put those in backwards and bad brakes.
Okay, so we're going to pull all these parts off and clean it up. And we've got replacements. What's this called right here?
That's the wheel cylinder.
Wheel cylinder. We've got replacements for those.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that they're bad. They might not be, but I think I should assume it.
Still got brake hoses.
I've
Is
got
that the brake hose?
I've got the rubber hoses. We're going to get this last front one assembled here. We're going to show you how we do it.
We have learned a few things along the way. Definitely go reverse order of when you took the brake pads out. Makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, because I'm here to tell you, an F-150, you can get away with doing it 2 or 3 different ways. This one, you can't get away with cheating. You have to do it a certain way, we figured out.
And we've also found out that it's a whole lot easier with 2 people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to hold your mouth right, have more than 2 hands.
Yeah, I'm thinking you involve duct tape and a ratchet strap if you were doing it by yourself. You could do it. You could, seriously, you could duct tape around the pads, and I think it would hold it there. But it's a lot easier to have 2 people.
But then you'd have to ratchet strap it to this.
Yeah, you'd have to pull it back because it wants to fold out.
Yeah, because to hit it in just the right spot where all the holes line up for your keepers and your bolts. The front brakes didn't have a parking brake, so that made it a little bit easier. But it's also got all the bearings that we got to remember to put in.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've done plenty of drum brakes on pickup trucks. This is more challenging than it looks like. This has fewer parts, and it's more of a pain because it wants to fold out and fall off.
So, start with the brake cylinder.
You're going to work on that. And
okay.
This is the thing I want to tell you. Okay. And guys, do the next person a favor, and because you may be the next person on these star adjusters, when you're working on drum brakes, please take the time to put a little anti-seize on them, because especially these are manual adjust, so you actually have to come in here and adjust these periodically. And if you don't do this anti-seize, this star wheel may get stuck, and you may get stuck with it compressed down and not be able to get your drum off without running the risk of breaking something.
And you also have to do this a lot by feel. The front seemed to have more room than the back as far as actually being able to climb in here if you needed to look.
You can also turn the wheels on the front. It makes it a lot easier sometimes. This is where having 2 people is really helpful.
The other thing you have to remember is what direction you're putting it in there, because the hole to reach the star adjuster
has to match this hole right here. In this case, the star needs to go towards the front on the driver's side, but on the passenger side, the star goes towards the rear. Reason for that, though, is that way when you push down, it has the same, because if you push down through the adjuster hole, it's going to tighten the brakes, and that way pushing down at all 4 corners tightens them, and going up loosens them.
The other thing to keep in mind is that the brake pad with the larger amount of pad material goes to the back, and easy to recognize, but the one that has the most metal goes to, exposed metal goes to the front.
Yeah, because the shoe is actually identical, it's just where the pad is attached. And this is where it gets interesting.
It'd actually been easier if we'd have had you pulling them apart.
Okay. Which way am I?
Okay, this is the front.
That's the front?
Yep.
Sure. Yes, that's the front. So the star goes to the front. Yeah. Oh, oh. You got the bottom torqued way off. There you go.
So that's where it starts getting interesting, of having 2 people hold it, and you did not get my
I didn't bring any keepers over here. Did you really want keepers?
Well, that's the next thing to put on here.
See, she's actually pretty good at it at this point. You gotta pull in the center of that. There you go. I wouldn't put fingers down there because that's a pinch spot.
You know, right? So brake part is done. Next is bearings. And
well, I would say we put the wheel hub on.
wheel hub on first? Okay.
Well, yeah, considering that would be the next bearing.
Yep. Oh, wanted to point something out. Is after we cleaned them, we did stuff them with a lot of grease.
And these are ball bearings. They're not rollers, tapered rollers like in a modern vehicle.
And I've never been a goth person, but I think I'm going to have to invest in black fingernail polish. I saw that off of Miss Taylor that drives drag racing. What's her first name?
Alex.
Alex.
Mm-hmm.
It was Alex
on Hot Rod Garage.
Alex or Alice?
Alex Taylor.
Okay, so now what?
Now then, you get the really greasy bearing out of that hub.
It goes next?
It goes next. It goes the other direction. I tried to stop you in time because you got to go in for catch the taper.
Like that?
Okay. Zero play, rolls smooth. All right, well, here's what we've been putting off because this is the key element whether or not the brakes work. So we should do it last.
Hey, so you remember how much trouble I had putting the starter in? That I basically had to lay on the fender and I couldn't breathe? Well, guess what? The master brake cylinder is even further down than this. So actually back then they did start thinking about things on how to access them. So guess what? We have a secret compartment.
We hope. Because for right now, you can see here. So I can stick the phone in and see, now you can see the brake master cylinder. We can't reach that physically though.
It's not from the top side anyway.
Or from the bottom side.
So we found in the floorboard, or, you know, obviously we took out all the carpet. The rats helped as well. But we took out all the carpet and we found panels in the floorboard. So we're gonna see if that shows us where the master brake cylinder is.
We're hoping we have enough access to take the whole thing out.
You want to see where that panel is underneath the steering column and underneath our pedals?
And you can tell where all the bolts are because I sprayed some Freol on it last night, hoping these bolts will be loose this morning. So we're going to find out if the bolts are loose. All right, now.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, there's what we're chasing right there. See? It's easy to get to now. There's nothing in the way.
Well, I wonder if the starter would have been easier to get to from this compartment.
Apparently.
Maybe.
Because there's the starter. Once again, there's nothing in the way.
No, nothing. Not, you know, cables or pipes or
I'm not sure what that is. Gotten this thing rebuilt. I think it's in great shape. Now Sarah's going to perform some small hand miracles that I can't do and get this all put back in place. Which side do you want it on? Mistakes were made. I think I can fix it. When this was bolted on, a fitting got hung between the frame and this and crushed a very important piece of brass right here. So I'm going to attempt to repair the threads. We're going to see if this will work. Break that loose. Let's get this completely separated. Fairly delicate operation here. Which is of course why I'm using precision equipment. Get away with this because if I can't, this gets a lot more complicated. Like I say, you can't buy this little brass part anywhere. I'm going to end up having to make it. That's not good. at best, this is temporary. Or permanent if it works, but I don't think this would be the best permanent solution out there, so we're going to call this temporary for now. I am hoping that holds. It's not perfect, but it's better than no threads, which is what I had before. So we'll see. It may blow out. We just got, it may blow out, but this just has to hold up through the parking lot, so we'll see how that goes. I have as good a pedal as I'd like, but you press it a couple of times, it pumps up to brakes. I'm sure I need to bleed it a little better, but I was by myself last night finishing this up, so I bled it best I could on a single person bleed. But it's got a stiff pedal, and I checked. I put a brick on this, and you can't turn the wheels. So for what we're going to do, that'll be good enough for tomorrow. The brakes are good enough. We're just going to be using this in a parking lot. We're not going down the highway or anything. My repair seems to be holding. The wheel cylinders are brand new and they seem to be working. The rebuild on the master cylinder seems to be working. So I think at least for today, the brakes are a success. I'm sure they'll come back up again later because I'm not absolutely confident in that repair on the master cylinder distribution block back there. That's a little questionable, but it'll work for now. Got more work to do though. So, well, as always, thanks for watching. Until next time.